money is not the only motive. There's a sort of widespread view that entrepreneurs are motivated primarily by money, and a lot of policy is built around that spurious idea. And I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and one thing that is absolutely clear is, in the main, then money matters. Of course, they've got to survive as businesses, and we all like a bit of money, but a lot more other things count as well.
Hello and welcome to the Test Community Network. I hope you're safe and well. My name's Tim Burnett. As ever in this show today, if you see anything you like and love, then go to the Community.Network and you'll find it there. Today we're talking with Dr. Bob Gomersall from Surpass, formerly known as BTL, and he's talking about his new book, Worthwhile Wealth. I've got a signed copy here by Bob. It was really quite interesting. Really talks about his kind of the entrepreneurship journey, the meaning behind being an entrepreneur, and also in his book he talks a little about kind of his career and his mission. And we kind of move on to talk a little bit more about the future of assessment as part of the conversation. So that is to come. As ever, subscribe for free to the Test Community Network. I'm going to give you a short snippet of the amazing email that you'll get through with lots of resources. But you can go to the testcommunity.network website, or if you subscribe, you get the email through with all the really interesting links all there ready for you. So webinars that are coming up and events that are coming up. So Stra's got a webinar on the 6th of December looking at test development process. We have developing ethical AI uses. This is International Baccalaureate, so it's worth checking those out. Unlock your future leadership skills. That's part of the ALT series. There's also a bit more ALT stuff coming up in a second as well. Educational Assessment Group, that's Dr. Mary Richardson. They've got their seminar with Isabel Nesbitt and Stuart Stew. Got Cambridge Assessment Network tracking COVID pandemic. So if you're really interested in what's happened with students after the pandemic, that's worth checking that out. Durable skills. This is a bit of content that's in the marketplace. If you go to the marketplace on the website, you'll see that information. We've got the state of EdTech ecosystem in Holland, so the Dutch system. So we're checking that report out. There's a reflections on the recent conference by Rebecca Oldfield. That was the another ALT conference. Artificial intelligence. This is a book that's come out. I think it was Alina von Davier who was recommending that one, so it's worth checking that out. Trust everything Alina says. Tried and Test podcast, AI Revolution Assessment with Jim Harris. So that's worth checking that one out as well. And then we've got the Edge Futurist and getting the most out of Bet. So Bet is coming up if you're going to Bet. I may be there. I'm still kind of looking at whether or not I attend at the moment, but it'd be great to meet you if you are going. And then we've got the Cult Pedagogy podcast as well, avoiding the pitfalls of multitasking in schools. Worth checking that out. So just before I go on to the interview with Bob, just a couple of other things just to add in here. So I'm going to put myself there. There we go. So I've got a bit of a survey going at the moment. So I've been having lots of conversations going with awarding organizations off the back of the AI Superpowers webinar that I ran, which is worth checking that out. And one of them was just about how people are adding their content into their assessment platform. So there's a bit of a mixed response here. Some people are doing it with Word documents. Other people are direct into the test platform. So some comments and interesting results off there. So please do check that out and please do contribute as well. I put an article out this week as well. Let's get rid of that. Article this week following my visit to the Assessment Now conference, which is run by the British Council. That was in October in London. I'm going to run a series of 3 articles coming out. So this one's looking at the balancing test security with candidate experience. You don't want to scare candidates to death that they're going to be panicking their exams. So it's worth having a read of that article. Got some good comments on that one. Another piece of work I'm doing some work for the ATP as part of the marketing community, and we're putting a series of 4 guides together. Myself and Mohammed have been working on these, and this one is looking at how you could progress your career through membership. So anyone who's kind of involved in ATP, and I know there's lots of you out there, have really taken your career to different levels and new levels. It's worth contributing to that. Give me some great ideas on that one. Beta Labs as well on the Test Community Network. You'll see that on the homepage of the site. You can follow it there. Beta Labs, I've launched that up. 2 little things I've done. This is a Claude and GPT table converter. So I've created this in Replit, something I've been playing around with quite a lot, AI development tool. When you're creating tables, when you producing table-ized results and data from ChatGPT or Claude, they come out in Markdown, and you can, as Dan Fitzpatrick was pointing out to people the other day, you can click a box in Google and paste in your Markdown copy there. But Word and Excel don't like that as much. So what I did was I created this thing where if you paste out your copy in your table, paste it out, you can copy it straight into Excel or into Word. It doesn't store the data; it just does a little conversion for you. So just a little tool there for you. There's also been working on the AI item bank. So this is an idea that uses AI to generate items. And what I've done here is you've got generation requests, so you can create your kind of spec for the items that you want to generate, and then it will then generate the items. You can edit those items here as well. So let's load that up. Yep. So you've got the correct answer. You've got 6 distractors. You've got an explanation that's coming out. You've got a topic, etc. You can also export those items as CSV as well. And there's another little feature I'm going to add in that from the conversation I was having the other day with someone about just about this kind of knowledge base idea beforehand. So I'm playing around with this stuff. So check it out. And finally, the other thing to mention is, again, off the back of the conversation I've been having with awarding organizations, I've put together this business tasks for awarding organizations. So it's not just about assessment creation and creating items and things. That's not purely what AOs do in the space. There's lots of other functions that they have to perform to be an awarding organization. You've got compliance-based things, got business development. You've got to stay alive as a company and work and operate. So what I've done is I've analyzed over 50 job descriptions that were put out quite recently. So they're quite recent job tasks. I've broken those down into tasks. I've then got it to AI to suggest AI solutions against those tasks. And I put them into a table so that people can vote up and comment on here. It's a bit of a kind of wild idea. People might use it, but might not. What I want to try and understand, I'm trying to build, and I suppose this is back to my kind of looking at how people use AI to generate how they put questions and things into the assessment platforms poll that's up there, is just to understand more and more of those kind of business operation or activities that sit around you as an organization creating items and delivering them in tests, and how AI can help them. So it's not just about creating multiple choice tests, it's about doing some other funky stuff that's going to save you lots of time and energy. Anyway, enough about that. Check them out. Give me a shout if you want to ask questions. That'd be brilliant. Now I'm going to play my interview with Dr. Bob Gomersall. So here we go. Tim, good to see you again. Are you well?
And you, Tim. And yes, I'm pretty good. Thanks very much. Nice to see you.
Excellent. Now, I've been reading your new book, Worthwhile Wealth. Well done. It's a great book. It's a great read. Before we start going into this, and we're going to have a quick chat about the future of your views on future of assessment and learning and education. Do you want to just introduce yourself to the Test Community Network, just in case there's anyone, unlikely, but anyone out there who's not heard of you, Bob?
Oh, so I'm Bob Gomersall. I've been in EdTech now for 40 years. My first business, BTL, eventually became Surpass Assessment, and that's probably the business that is best known. I also founded several other businesses, including Virtual College, which is now owned by a Spanish company, NetX Learning, and ADI, which is now the business has been taken over by a Canadian company. So really my main focus has been in recent years on Surpass Assessment.
Excellent. And obviously, we used to work together when I was at BTL for 16 years or so. I think I was.
Yes, it was a long time.
No, it was. Interesting times, but it was good fun. So, tell us about the book. What's the book about? Why should people read your book?
Well, it's really about motivation and what motivates people, and in particular, recognizing that money is not the only motive. There's a sort of widespread view that entrepreneurs are motivated primarily by money, and a lot of policy is built around that spurious idea. And I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and one thing that is absolutely clear is, in the main, money matters. Of course, they've got to survive as business, and we all like a bit of money. But a lot more other things count as well, and it's about creating something valuable, creating something that you value yourself, and it might not be money, creating something that a community would value, or other things as well. And so the book I aimed at emphasizing that point, encouraging people who are not entrepreneurs to think about it as a way of doing it, even if they're not thinking about making vast amounts of money, and talking about some case studies of different people who have made that decision, but not necessarily to make a stack of money.
Yeah, and reading through, there's obviously quite, and I think when you look back at your kind of career and the businesses you've spun up, there's obviously quite a kind of moral and ethical theme there for the things that you've been working, because it's healthcare, education. Yeah, that's been a big driver for you, hasn't it?
Well, I don't know whether it's the subjects are ethical in that. I mean, they just happen to be areas I was interested in, really.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's why I did them. And yes, I was interested. I suppose I've always been interested in making things happen. I've always been interested in helping. My driving force was always to bring about a dramatic improvement in education using technology. And so that's been the kind of driver. And if that's ethical, well, fine. I'm not sure. Perhaps a bit of an overblown description, but that's the effect anyway.
Yeah. And I was quite impressed. There was one point in there, because you touch on various different aspects, and we'll talk about kind of entrepreneurship and innovation in a second. But there was one thing that stood out to me that I looked at and read, and it was the donut economy.
Yes.
Do you want to tell people what the idea of the donut economy is, really?
Well, I hope I can. I mean, it's quite well known in some circles, and the argument is that if you imagine a donut and you go too far outside the donut, if you imagine the donut, it describes the areas in which the world is sustainable, basically. And if you try to do things too vigorously that damage the ecology or other aspects of life, then you're going outside the donut. And if I can't remember, I think going inside donut is not ensuring that everyone has a reasonable crack at the whip, and poverty and so on begins to grow. So it's that sort of sweet spot in between the two, and it's working out how to work within that sweet spot. I hope I'm not giving a wrong interpretation. It's Kate Rayworth that wrote it, and I hope I'm not giving an unfair interpretation of it.
No, I think my kind of view on it was obviously it's a kind of an alternative way of looking at GDP and things like that, isn't it?
Yes,
because obviously,
indeed.
Yeah, if you had a rainforest in your country and you said, well, I'm going to chop all the trees down and sell them that year, then your GDP will go through the roof. Fantastic, brilliant. But your country is going to be a desert in 6 months' time, isn't it? So
yes. And there's a strong point that a lot of aspects of GDP, things that contribute to GDP, which are just not actually beneficial to society. I mean, you've got to think about gambling, for example. The more people gamble, the bigger the GDP gets. Similarly, a lot of industrial activities produce waste, one sort or another, which is never costed in. I mean, CO2 emissions, waste going into pollution, going into the rivers. The companies that produce it don't necessarily pay for it, so it exaggerates GDP, and so there's the whole measure of GDP was in doubt even by the guy who invented it. I forget his name, but he actually said, well, he wasn't sure whether it was a great measure. So we do need to be careful about whether it's really adding value to society. And just measuring it in one simple term as GDP, it doesn't always get the best result from our point of view.
Yeah, it's like a bit of a false measure, isn't it? Obviously innovation has been a kind of big driving point in your work and your career. How would you kind of define innovation? What's your kind of thinking about the role of innovation?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've always been interested in it, not just technical innovation. I mean, technical innovation is obviously important. It's played a big part in what I do. But I would say for every technical innovation, there are probably 9 or 10 business innovations that come out as a result of it. And the business innovations are often just as important, probably more important than the technical innovation. And so both those things are important, and both of those things need thinking about. And often you find that the technology if you try to drive the technology alone, then probably the business won't succeed. There is a lot more to it than that, and so that's how I see it. There's kind of a belief that innovation only takes place in universities, and that's a bit of a fallacy. I mean, a lot of it is in companies. I mean, you can see it internationally already. I mean, the powerhouse of innovation now are the big American technology companies, actually Google and so on. And so I think that's true at a smaller scale as well. I mean, the universities, obviously, a lot of important stuff happens in universities. And actually, the big challenge there is getting out of universities and into the market. And I've done some work on that as well. And I'm actually involved in Bradford University, helping them to do exactly that kind of thing. It's not as easy as it sounds, actually. It's quite a hard job.
And you have been, just on that Bradford point, you've been quite heavily involved in the kind of business networks and business careers. Do you think it's important to be part of that kind of business community, whether it's kind of regionally or globally?
Well, I do it. So obviously I do think it's important. To what extent it achieves results, I don't know. We all do our best. But it's, it's a hard slog, actually. I think that people who put their time into business networks are really to be applauded. I mean, some people put a hell of a lot of time and effort into it, rather more than I do. And I think they really are to be applauded for what they do, really.
Yeah. And do you think that's helped you in your kind of journey? Has that been one of the kind of helping? What has helped you in your kind of journey, I suppose?
Well, I think the thing that's helped me most is being a member of the thing called TAB, the Alternative Board, where I've met every month with half a dozen other entrepreneurs who are basically were at my stage of development when I joined, and we shared our problems, shared our issues every month, and it worked. It was the advice we got, the advice I got was far more valuable than the advice you get from anywhere else, because you're getting it from people who've done it themselves and know what it's like and know what it's all about. And so I think that was way the most valuable thing that I got. Most of my colleagues in that group now, we're still friends and we still get on well. And most of them have sold their businesses. I'm the only one that's left slugging it out, basically.
No, it's good. Well, it's great that you're still going with it, really, I suppose. Obviously, there's been some big changes or big innovations and moves with generative AI that's come along. And I know education's been a big passion. What's your kind of view on where we're going at the moment? Are you kind of nervous for the future of education? Are you excited with an AI kind of generation?
No, I'm very excited about what it can do for education. I think it's a much harder job than people imagine, but it's something I've been, right back at the beginning, when the first microcomputer appeared, that's a desktop computer, I thought this is going to be big for personalized learning. That's a long time ago. And I thought within 10 years it'll all happen. Well, within 10 years it hadn't all happened. In fact, it's still not all happened. It's still the case that if you can afford a private tutor, then you can have the benefits of it. But if you can't, then the technology might help a bit, but you can't really claim it helps a lot or is anywhere near as effective as a private tutor. And I think the AI will bridge that gap and really democratize the opportunity for all people to have the opportunity to get really good feedback in the learning process. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm keen that we're at Surpass are involved in it. We've got some ideas, got lots of ideas. I've had lots of ideas for a long time. As you know, Tim, keep touting them around. Every now and then I turn up at the office and pull an idea off the shelf and say, "Hey guys, what about this?" And go away, Bob, we're too busy. But every now and then I get a bit of traction and we get a new idea through. And this is one that definitely the team are all pretty keen about.
Yeah. Would you say you're an ideas person? Do you think that's been one of your kind of?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting older. I don't have so many ideas now, but I still have a lot. But I used to have lots of ideas, and I mean, it was the same in my research career. I enjoyed having ideas and turning them into results. But a business is a much better way to do it, really, because you've got the opportunity and the resources to make it happen. So yeah, I've always been keen on ideas and always been keen on generating ideas.
And lastly, you started you started in kind of research, wasn't it? And then teaching I think was after that.
Yeah.
So you've been a teacher, a physics teacher, for a good number of years. How do you think how do you think all this is going to affect the teaching profession? Do you think that people should be worried? Do you think they should be excited? Do you think there's any threats?
Well, it's going to change it. Well, I've been saying for years it was going to change it. It hasn't done yet. And if you go into the average school, you won't see that much difference, really. And there are huge institutional things stopping the change, really. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the big changes occur, first of all, in countries like India, where they've got a lot of well-educated people. There's not enough cash to educate everybody well, and so technology could have a really big impact. And institutional barriers could be a real big problem in the developed world, in the fully developed, or whatever you call it, like the US or the UK. So I don't know. I mean, I think the teachers will have to embrace it at some point, and I think something like the flipped classroom will become more important, where people learn and understand material at home or partly at home, and school is more about helping them fill in the gaps, really. But I can't say I know how it's going to work, and I'm not sure how it's going to work. It may be that the same thing has happened with microcomputers, that they were introduced because people started using them at home and ignored the mainframe at work. And it may well be that people start learning at home and ignore what they've been doing during the day at school. In other words, they could well work around it. It wouldn't surprise me if that's what happens, really. It'd be very interesting to see that.
I think it's going to be. I think it's really exciting times. I kind of as somebody, I still do a bit of teaching now, and I'm trying to use AI as much as possible in my kind of class space and the activities there. So I think the rapid development cycles and things like that. So what I like about it is those ideas that you've had in the past, where it's been a kind of, not barriers, but it's always been a resource constraint on being able to implement them. And I just like the idea that we'll be able to process them a lot faster. So keep those ideas, Bob. Keep throwing those ideas out.
Keep plugging away at it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So books available on Amazon, isn't it? People can
any decent bookstore or Amazon, or they can that's the place to look, really. Amazon.
I'll include a link in the notes for the show.
Oh, jolly
good. So people can do that directly. But thank you very much, Bob. That's been a really good chat. Good to hear your kind of views on where we're going and your kind of views on where we've been, I suppose, as well. So I'll let you get back to your day, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. It's nice chatting to you as well.
Thanks for that, Bob. That was great. It was a really interesting conversation. So, go out there. I'm going to put I will actually add it to the marketplace as well. I didn't do that the other day. I will do that now. So when you're watching this, you will find it on the marketplace. So that's it from me for another week. I hope to have a lovely guest next week for you, which is a nice, exciting conversation. We are getting very close to Christmas. So I'll just have to keep an eye on workload, but all being well, we'll have an episode all the way up to just before we break up on the Christmas break. I'm going to leave you with a clip from the latest episode from the It Depends podcast, something I do with Amanda Danis. I had a really great comment by someone today on LinkedIn. Someone really complimentary about it. So do please check it out. It's worth checking. So I'm going to leave that with you now, and I'll speak to you next week. Thank you and bye-bye.
So when you have a test that is not unidimensional, you have got items that are measuring multiple things, it is more difficult to build an accurate adaptive test, because if they're getting an item wrong because of their reading level, but their math ability is actually up here, the test is going to go down here, and then it's harder. So adaptive test, the group of items that you're using that algorithm on really needs to be as unidimensional as possible. Obviously,